yards out. This would be his 36th and would tie his team record for a season. Boswell, so good.
He's a machine.
When his confidence was riding high, and he made 33 kicks. But this year, it's a different story.
Chris Boswell, very good. Dustin Hopkins, not so much. Brown signed Dustin Hopkins to a 3-year deal worth $16 million and a $3.5 million signing bonus this offseason, and he deserved it. He had a great year last year. Now he's making fewer than 70% of his kicks. Meanwhile, Boswell sitting there making 92.3% of his kicks. And one of the popular discussions on social media yesterday, Dorin, was, can Chris Boswell be the Steelers team MVP? 36 out of 39, a long of 57, 11 out of 13 from 50 plus. He's automatic. As Romo said, he's a machine. Is he really the Steelers MVP?
He absolutely should be.
Whoa!
He won them 2 games by himself.
Yes, he did.
Without a touchdown.
That's
2
right.
games.
2.
One being actually both being really significant because one was the first game of the season to kick off the 2024 season. The other was against the Ravens. I mean, yes, he won those 2 games by himself.
So you're saying kickers, Crowley, are people too?
They sure are. They sure are.
I have no problem if Chris Boswell at the end of the year winds up being the team MVP. I think your argument is sound. It is well taken. There is so much comfort in just throwing him out there to kick a field goal. You don't have to coach. You don't have to make tough decisions all the time. When you got a kicker like Cleveland does, when you now have Justin Tucker playing as poorly, kicking as poorly as he is, it puts a lot of pressure on head coaches. Am I going for it? Am I punting? Am I kicking a field goal here? What am I going to do? I can't count on this guy. Butker, he's out for Kansas City, and we see Matthew Wright, who's been here. He doinks one in because, of course, he does, because they have pixie dust going on in Kansas City. But you're probably not feeling super confident. Yeah, I can see the argument for him to be number one.
Is it odd that this year that there's so many missed extra points and field goals? I feel like that this is like...
It's been a bad year for kickers.
It really has been, right?
And we've been trending to really having the best kickers in the history of the game. Like the last few years, there were conversations. Do you narrow the goalposts? Like, what do you do? Kicking's become too easy. And this year, yeah, you're right. And some of the great ones aren't kicking well. Like Justin Tucker's a lost cause, it seems.
Crazy.
They got guys in this week for the bye to push him, to challenge him for tryout. So, yeah, except for Boz. 36 of 39. Hasn't missed an extra point. Like, if you need to go pee or grab a beverage, he lines up for an extra point, you can go do that. It's got to be Russ, though. That has to be Russ. He's changed the whole dynamic of the team. Like, if they give it to Boz, I get it. He's played every single game, and he's been almost automatic. But for me, it's got to be Russell Wilson. I mean, they're 6-1 with Russ. With Fields, we're thinking, hey, this team's pretty good. With Russ, we're going, hey, this team could win the Super Bowl. So for me, it's got to be Russ. But if anybody wants to argue for Boswell, I understand it.
That's kind of where I'm at. I'd argue for Boswell, but it's clearly Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's totally revamped this team.
Look at him yesterday. He wasn't good in the first half. They weren't good in the first half. But in the second half, when you need to make plays and you don't have your number one wide receiver, he just went out there and made plays. Like, great plays. The Scotty Miller throw down the sideline. The Mike Williams throw down the sideline. The Freiermuth throw in the middle of the field. The Freiermuth touchdown pass. He's so clutch. They scored 27 points, and we've kind of been about the Steelers' offense today. 27 points without George Pickens. It's not what they did last week, and they had Pickens last week. Like last week, I think when the season's over, we're going to go, that was the gold standard for Steelers' offensive performances. Is this one that far off, though, honestly? Because of what they did and who they didn't have? Like, to put up almost 27 points against a defense that was good against you just 2 weeks ago, a coordinator who we have respect for, and one of the best defensive players in the game, Myles Garrett, to put up 27 points with all that working against you, that's a good offensive performance.
But we went through this last week. They've been doing this all year, even though with George Pickens being the highest producer, they've been spreading the ball around all season. We talked about it last week, and that's why that this team is what they are, and they have room to grow, is because if you just look at the box score, it equates to exactly what they've been doing underneath Russell Wilson almost every single game. I went through it last week. Najee Harris around 50 to 60 yards rushing, sometimes a little bit higher. Jaylen Warren around 40 yards rushing, around 20 yards receiving. Van Jefferson usually has a catch. Pratt Freiermuth over 40 yards receiving and 3 catches. Darnell Washington didn't get a catch, I don't believe, but he's usually rolled into the fold. Calvin Austin's usually rolled into the fold, didn't do it, yesterday. So, the disbursement has been there all season long. So, this offense has been doing this all season. I wasn't shocked that they didn't keep up their disbursement and how they played without George Pickens. It was just a little bit lesser of a stat day for everybody else.
Yeah, they showed that they could do it without their explosive guy being explosive because he wasn't there. And they found explosion elsewhere. I mean, the long catch from Mike Williams, 22 yards. Scotty Miller, 21 yards. Pat Freiermuth, 21 yards. 9 guys targeted, 8 guys with catches. It was 8 guys with catches last week. Impressive. And maybe we should have expected it. And it took them a little bit for the plane to get off the ground, but it eventually did. I think you can make an argument, though, that Pickens might deserve some merit in that conversation. Because it just looked harder. They did it. They put up points, but it felt like pulling teeth at times, particularly in that first half. Another guy, 2 guys that I think merit consideration for MVP, Cam Hayward. Cam Hayward has been stupid good. He's an all-pro. If he's not an all-pro, we riot. He got 8 sacks. He's projected to get double-digit sacks again. He got 4 games left. He's going to do that. Going to be an all-pro. I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. So he merits consideration. And then a sneaky, cute one would be Highsmith.
Yep.
They're 7-0 with Highsmith. They have 3 losses, all of which happened whenever he hasn't been on the football field.
Yeah, totally different defense with him.
Yeah.
Immediately it showed, too. Immediately.
What'd you make of that roughing the passer?
No. That's all I have to say about that.
You got 4 hours to kill. What do you mean that's all you got to say about that?
I mean, what are we playing football? Or are we playing patty cake?
Patty cake. Is that big in your house, the patty cake?
No.
No? You never did that with Jack's?
No.
We're a big patty cake family. Patty cake and Fritos.
Regular ones.
I mean, Jameis taking a dive. Yeah. He's on the Olympic diving team. This guy's acting. I thought there could have been one in the end zone. And then that one just drove me up a wall. What's funny, Callis? Laughing behind the glass.
I've never heard a flop described as somebody being a part of a diving team.
I mean, seriously. This guy's like a ballerina. Oh. Really ticked me off. But, that's kind of Jameis, right? He's sort of, he's eccentric. He's kind of flamboyant in everything that he does. All right. Can you give the team MVP to Chris Boswell? 412-928-9370. Or is it Russ? Or can you make a case for George Pickens? I mean, think about Arthur Smith too, man, and this offense. So yesterday there's no Pickens. You put up 27. And Russ distributes the football. But you look at where they are statistically in all these offensive categories, and, man, this has not been an offense devoid of adversity. Think about the young offensive linemen and the juggling up front. And think about, Jaylen Warren didn't play early, and they love Cordero Patterson, and he missed time. And I think Najee Harris has kind of been banged up these last few weeks, and they didn't have really a number 2 wide receiver until yesterday when Mike Williams announces his presence. They're a flawed offense, and yet they're putting up points. So I do think a lot of credit goes to that guy, too.